The transport shuttle lurched as it docked with the Krell salvage station. Jenna Kovac pressed her face against the small window, watching the massive orbital junkyard spread out before her like a graveyard of metal giants. Hundreds of derelict ships floated in organized rows, their hull plating stripped away, their engines cold and dark. 5 years. 5 years of her life, gone. All because she had reprogrammed a colony ship's outdated navigation system without authorization. The system had been failing, putting 3,000 colonists at risk. She had fixed it, and for that crime, the Galactic Transit Authority had sentenced her to salvage duty. The airlock hissed open. A massive figure stood waiting. Thok, her new supervisor. The Krell stood nearly 8 feet tall. His forearms crossed over his barrel chest. His skin was gray and rough like stone, and his 3 eyes blinked independently as he looked her up and down. "Human engineer," Thok rumbled, his voice like grinding rocks. "Jenna Kovac, convicted of unauthorized modifications." "Yes, sir," Jenna said, shouldering her small bag of belongings. Thok snorted, "Don't call me sir. I'm Thok. You work for me now." He turned and began walking down the corridor. Jenna hurried to keep up with his long strides. Humans. Always touching things they don't understand. Always breaking protocols. And our act. Jenna bit her tongue. She had learned during her trial that arguing didn't help. The station was enormous. They passed through sections where alien workers dismantled ships with precision tools and molecular cutters. Jenna recognized some species, the insectoid Vrex with their multiple limbs, the floating whispers who communicated through colored light patterns, even a few other humans working in teams. Each species has strengths, Thok explained as they walked. Vrex are precise. Whispers see energy patterns we cannot. Krell are strong. He glanced back at her. Humans are stubborn. You see problems everywhere and cannot leave them alone. They took an elevator down several levels. The station grew darker and colder. Finally, they emerged into a section that looked abandoned. Ships here were old, damaged beyond recognition. Some were covered in strange growths. Others had hull damage so severe that Jenna couldn't tell what species had built them. "The dead zone," Thok announced. "Ships too old, too damaged, or too incompatible with modern salvage techniques. Your job is simple. Catalog them. Mark which ones should go to the incinerators. Stay out of trouble." He handed her a datapad and a small toolkit. "Most workers last 3 months here before requesting transfer. It's boring work. Lonely work. But it's safe." He paused. "Don't try to fix anything. Don't reprogram anything. Just catalog and mark. Understand?" "I understand," Jenna said quietly. Thok left her there, his heavy footsteps echoing away. Jenna stood alone in the dead zone, surrounded by the corpses of ships from across the galaxy. She took a deep breath and got to work. The first week was exactly as Thok had described, boring. She floated from ship to ship in her worksuit, scanning hull numbers, checking for hazardous materials, marking each vessel for eventual destruction. The datapad assigned her 20 ships per day, but Jenna couldn't help herself. She looked closer than required. She examined the engineering. Even on broken systems, each species built ships differently. The Vrex used modular components that locked together like puzzle pieces. The Whispers built ships that ran on light itself. The Krell built everything heavy and strong, designed to last forever. On her 9th day, she found something unusual. The ship didn't match any design in her database. It was ancient, that much was clear from the carbon scoring and micrometeor damage. But what caught her attention were the crystals. Blue-green crystalline structures covered the hull like ice, growing in intricate patterns that seemed almost organic. Jenna scanned the hull number. The datapad chimed and displayed a simple message: predecessor origin. Technology incompatible. Catalog and mark for incineration. Predecessor. Jenna had heard stories about them. They were the galaxy's great mystery, an ancient civilization that had vanished 50,000 years ago, leaving behind technology so advanced that modern species couldn't even activate it, let alone understand it. She moved closer, her gloved hand reaching out to touch the crystalline growth. Through her suit sensors, she felt something strange. Not heat or cold, but a kind of rhythm, like a very slow pulse. Interesting, she whispered. She spent the rest of her shift examining the ship. The more she looked, the more questions she had. The crystals weren't random. They formed patterns networks that branched and connected like neural pathways. Like the mycelial networks she had studied back on Earth, the fungal connections that linked entire forests together underground. Other species had probably tried to bypass the crystals, to cut through them to reach the ship's core systems. But what if that was the wrong approach? What if the crystals were the system? Jenna pulled out her personal notebook, actual paper, a rare thing in space, and began sketching the crystal patterns. She worked until her shift alarm chimed, reminding her to return to the habitation ring. As she flew back toward the airlock, she looked over her shoulder at the predecessor ship. It floated there in the darkness, covered in blue-green light, waiting. It had been waiting for 50,000 years. Maybe it could wait a little longer. Over the next 2 weeks, Jenna completed her required work quickly and spent every extra minute studying the predecessor ship. She researched in the station's library during her off hours, reading everything available about the ancient civilization. Most of it was speculation. The predecessors had built incredible things, structures that defied physics, ships that could cross the galaxy in days, technology that seemed more like magic than science. Then, suddenly, they were gone. No bodies, no explanation. Just empty ships and abandoned stations scattered across 1,000 worlds. 37 different species had attempted to study predecessor technology. All had failed. The Vrex tried to reverse engineer the components. Failure. The Whispers tried to map the energy flows. Failure. Even the brilliant architects, a species known for their intellectual capabilities, couldn't crack the code. But none of them were human. On her 23rd day in the dead zone, Thok arrived during her shift. She was floating near the predecessor ship, taking measurements of the crystal patterns. She didn't hear him approach in the vacuum of space until his hand grabbed her shoulder and spun her around. His voice crackled through her suit radio. "What are you doing, Kovac?" "Cataloging, sir, I mean Thok. Just being thorough." His 3 eyes narrowed. "You've spent 12 hours on this one ship. The others took you minutes. What's so special about this junk?" "It's a predecessor vessel," Jenna said. 37 species have examined that relic." Thok interrupted. "Mine's far superior to yours. The architects have intelligence scores that would make your brightest scientists weep. The Vrex can see in spectrums you cannot imagine. The Whispers exist partially in dimensions your species doesn't even have words for." He pulled her away from the ship, his grip firm but not painful. "What makes you think a human could succeed where they failed? You're here because you can't stop tinkering with things you don't understand. Learn from this. Some problems cannot be solved. Some doors stay closed." He released her and pointed back toward the habitation ring. "Catalog it. Mark it for incineration. Move on." Jenna watched him leave. Then she looked back at the predecessor ship, at the crystal patterns, glowing faintly in the darkness. "Sorry, Thok," she whispered, "but I've never been good at leaving doors closed." That night, Jenna couldn't sleep. She lay in her small quarters, thinking about the ship, about the crystals, about patterns and networks, and the ways different species approached problems. Maybe that was the point. Maybe the reason 37 species had failed wasn't because the technology was impossible to understand. Maybe they had all been asking the wrong questions. Jenna couldn't stop thinking about the ship. During her meals in the cafeteria, while showering, even in her dreams the crystal patterns filled her mind. She saw them everywhere, glowing blue-green against the darkness of space. On her day off, she went to the station's library. It was a small room filled with data terminals, where workers could access the galactic database. Most people used it for entertainment, watching shows from their home worlds. Jenna used it to research. She pulled up everything about predecessor technology. Most files were marked with warnings: academic interest only, or activation attempts forbidden by galactic law. She read them anyway. Well sighed. Well sighed. Well sighed. Well sighed. The more she read, the more a pattern emerged. Every species that had tried to understand predecessor technology had approached it the same way as pure machinery. They looked for power sources, for circuit pathways, for computational cores. They used mathematics, quantum analysis, dimensional mapping. All of them failed. Jenna leaned back in her chair, thinking, what if they were all wrong? What if predecessor technology wasn't just machinery? She remembered something from her childhood on Earth. Her grandmother had been a biologist who studied fungal networks. She had shown young Jenna how mushrooms were just the visible part of something larger, vast underground networks that connected trees, shared nutrients, even communicated in ways scientists were still trying to understand. The crystals on the predecessor ship looked just like those networks. Not a computer, Jenna whispered to herself. A living system. The next day, she returned to the dead zone with a plan. She began bringing small items from the salvage yard. Basic electrical components. Simple battery cells. Copper wire. Nothing advanced enough to attract attention. Nothing that would trigger inventory alerts. She worked carefully, always completing her required cataloging first. Then, when the shift was quiet, she approached the predecessor ship. Instead of scanning it like a machine, she treated it like something alive. She touched the crystals gently, feeling their texture through her gloves. She watched how light moved through them. She noticed that certain patterns glowed brighter in some areas, dimmer in others, like a heartbeat that had slowed to almost nothing. Using the electrical components, Jenna built a simple interface. It wasn't sophisticated, just a way to send small electrical pulses through the crystal network. Not commands, not programs, just gentle signals, like testing if someone was still breathing. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. Jenna sent pulses every day. Different patterns, different strengths, different rhythms. She tried copying the crystal patterns themselves, turning their visual structure into electrical signals. She tried musical patterns, mathematical sequences, even her own heartbeat. Nothing. She began to doubt herself. Maybe Thok was right. Maybe this was impossible. Maybe she was just a stubborn human who couldn't accept that some problems had no solutions. On the 28th day, everything changed. Jenna sent another pulse through the crystals, this time using a pattern based on neural firing the way human brain cells communicated. She had read that the predecessor's biology was similar to humans in some ways. It was a guess, a hope. The crystals suddenly blazed with light. Jenna jerked back, startled. The blue-green glow spread across the entire hull like fire racing through dry grass. Patterns flowed and shifted, creating new connections, new pathways. The ship was waking up. Oh no, Jenna breathed. Oh no, oh no, oh no. The light was visible across the entire dead zone. Someone would see. Someone would come. She had to shut it down, had to hide what she'd done. But she couldn't. The crystals were responding on their own now, pulsing with a rhythm that felt almost like excitement, like someone waking from a very long sleep. Then the ship began broadcasting. Jenna's suit radio crackled with interference. Her data pad went crazy with warnings. The ship was sending out a signal, not radio waves, but something else. something that touched every communication system within range. Alarms blared across the station. Within minutes, Thok appeared, along with station security. They found Jenna floating near the ship, her simple interface still connected to the crystal network. The predecessor vessel glowed like a blue-green star. "What did you do?" Thok roared over the radio. I was testing neural patterns," Jenna stammered. "I didn't think it would." "Lock down the dead zone," Thok ordered the security team. "Get her away from that ship. Now!" But before security could reach her, something else arrived. A ship appeared at the edge of the station, sleek, elegant, made of material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. It was unlike anything Jenna had ever seen. Beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "This is the Symphonia vessel Eternal Chord," a voice announced across all channels. The voice was strange, harmonious, like multiple people singing the same words. "We are responding to the predecessor activation signature. All personnel are to evacuate the dead zone immediately." "The Symphonia?" Thok's voice was shocked. "But they haven't been in this sector for centuries." Another ship appeared, this one human-made, bearing the logo of Stellar Dynamics Corporation. "This is SD Corporate Vessel Profit Margin," a crisp human voice announced. "We have claims to any predecessor technology activated by human personnel. Stand by for boarding." Jenna watched in horror as more ships began arriving. Word was spreading fast. A predecessor ship had activated. Every faction in the sector wanted to claim it. The Symphonia ship moved closer. A figure materialized in space near Jenna. Not physically, but as a hologram. It was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Its features were elegant but alien, with too many joints in its limbs and eyes that swirled with colors. "I am Chord of the Symphonia," the figure said, its voice washing over Jenna like music. "You are the human who woke this vessel?" "I didn't mean to," Jenna said. "I was just studying it. I sent a simple pulse, and—" "Simple?" Chord's expression was unreadable. "You accomplished what 37 species could not. You made contact with a predecessor consciousness core. Do you understand what this means?" "No," Jenna admitted. Chord looked at the glowing ship, then back at Jenna. The predecessors didn't vanish. They transcended, merged with their technology, becoming something beyond physical form. That ship is not a vessel. It's a doorway, a bridge between what was and what could be. The hologram moved closer. "And some doors, human, should remain closed. Some bridges should not be crossed. The predecessors had their time. They made their choice. The galaxy has moved on." "But why?" Jenna asked. "Why would you hide this? Why not let others learn from them?" "Because chaos is dangerous," Chord said softly. "The Symphonia maintain harmony in the galaxy. We keep balance, order, peace." The predecessors knew no limits. They changed reality itself to suit their needs. That kind of power, in the wrong hands. The predecessor ship pulsed brighter, and Jenna felt something, a pressure in her mind, like someone trying to speak. Chord noticed. "It's calling to you. The consciousness inside recognizes something in your neural pattern. This is why we must act now, before the connection deepens." "Act how?" Jenna asked, though she already knew the answer. "We will destroy the ship," Chord said, "cleanly, completely. It's the only way to ensure safety." "No." Jenna reached toward the ship instinctively. "You can't. There's so much. We could learn." "Learning is not always wisdom," Chord interrupted. "Sometimes, the bravest choice is to leave the past buried." The Symphonia ship's weapons began to power up, energy gathering in ports along its hull. And in Jenna's mind, clear as a bell, words formed that weren't her own. "Help, please. So alone. So long alone. You understand. You hear. Please." The voice in her head was ancient and sad and desperate. Jenna looked at Cord. It's alive. There's someone still in there. There was someone, Cord corrected gently. 50,000 years ago. What remains now is an echo. A ghost in the machine. Letting it fully wake would be cruel. The weapons charged brighter. Jenna had seconds to decide. Station security grabbed Jenna and pulled her away from the predecessor ship. She struggled against their grip, watching as the Symphonia vessel's weapons glowed brighter, preparing to fire. "Wait," she shouted. "You don't understand. There's a consciousness in there. Someone who's been alone for 50,000 years. Exactly why it must end." Cord's holographic form replied sadly. "Mercy. Human. Not cruelty." Thok appeared beside the security team. "Take her to detention," he ordered. "Kovac, you've caused enough trouble." They dragged Jenna through the dead zone's airlock. She watched through the porthole as ships gathered around the glowing predecessor vessel, the Symphonia preparing to destroy it, the human corporation trying to claim salvage rights, Krell Station authorities demanding jurisdiction. Everyone talking. Everyone arguing. No one listening to the voice crying out in her mind. "Please, understand. You are like us. You see patterns in chaos. Please." In the detention cell, Jenna paced back and forth. The small room had a single window showing the dead zone. She could see the blue-green glow of the predecessor ship, pulsing like a heartbeat that was growing weaker. The Symphonia were preparing their final calculations. They would fire within hours. She had to do something. A knock on the door made her turn. The lock clicked, and Rex stepped inside a young Krell maintenance worker she had met in the cafeteria a few times. Unlike Thok, Rex was curious about humans, always asking questions about Earth. "You should not have done this," Rex said, but his voice was gentle, not angry. "I know," Jenna replied, "but I couldn't just ignore it. That ship, there's someone in there, Rex. I can hear them." Rex's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "The Symphonia say it is just old programming, like a recording playing over and over." "It's not," Jenna insisted. "I felt it. They're alive, aware, and they've been waiting for someone who could understand." Rex moved to the window, looking out at the glowing ship. "Thok says, humans always see problems that need fixing. He says your species cannot accept that some things are beyond you." "Maybe he's right," Jenna admitted. "But maybe that's not always a bad thing. Maybe sometimes the impossible just means nobody's tried the right way yet." Rex was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he sighed, a sound like wind through a canyon. "My father was a salvage worker. He taught me that every ship has value, even broken ones. We Krell build things to last forever, but you humans, you see potential in everything." He pulled out a keycard. "The service tunnels connect to the dead zone. Security doesn't monitor them. Well, they're too small for most species." He placed the card in her hand. "I will say you overpowered me. Took my key." Jenna stared at him. "Rex, you could lose your job." "Yes," he agreed. "But I am tired of watching my superiors waste potential. Tired of seeing them destroy what they don't understand." He moved toward the door. "You have maybe 2 hours before the Symphonia fire. Whatever you're going to do it quickly." He left, and Jenna heard him fall to the floor outside, shouting for help. She smiled despite the situation and ran for the service tunnels. The tunnels were cramped and dark. Jenna crawled through maintenance shafts, climbed down ladder wells, squeezed through gaps meant for cleaning drones. Her suit's oxygen meter ticked down, but she didn't stop. She emerged in the dead zone just as the Symphonia vessel moved into firing position. The predecessor ship's glow had dimmed significantly like a candle burning out. Jenna flew across open space toward the ship. Alarms blared. Security spotted her on cameras. Voices shouted orders over the radio channels. But she was faster. She reached the hull and pressed both hands against the crystal surface. The response was immediate. Light exploded through her mind. Not painful, but overwhelming. She saw no. She experienced memories that weren't hers. A civilization of beings who looked almost human, but weren't quite. They built not with metal and circuits, but with living technology that grew and evolved. They didn't pilot ships. They partnered with them. The images came faster. The predecessors had discovered how to merge consciousness with technology, creating a symbiosis between organic mind and artificial intelligence. They became something new, neither fully biological nor fully mechanical. Then came the war. Another species, the Symphonia, young and idealistic, feared this evolution. They saw it as abandoning natural form, as becoming monsters. They attacked, destroying most of the predecessor fleet. The survivors fled to the edges of the galaxy, put their ships into hibernation, and waited, hoping someone would find them. Someone who could understand. 50,000 years of waiting. Alone in the dark, the consciousness in the ship, the last crew member, reached out to Jenna more clearly now. She saw why it had responded to her neural pattern. Humans had something rare in the galaxy. The ability to hold contradictory ideas, to see patterns where others saw only noise, to adapt and improvise. Most species were brilliant, but rigid in their thinking. Humans were flexible, just like the predecessors had been. The others tried to command us, the voice explained. To control us. To break us apart and study us like dead things. But you treated us as alive, as partners. This is the key. This is what we needed. What do you want? Jenna asked, her thoughts becoming words in the shared mental space. To fly again, to live again, to not be alone anymore. Images flooded Jenna's mind, the ship fully awakened, its systems restored, its capabilities beyond anything the modern galaxy had ever seen. The power to cross dimensions, to manipulate space-time, to reshape reality itself on a small scale. Dangerous power. The kind the Symphonia feared. The voice sensed her hesitation. We do not seek conquest. We seek connection. For 50,000 years, we have slept. We have learned patience. We have learned wisdom. We only want a chance to exist again. The Symphonia weapons reached full charge. Cord's voice echoed across all channels. Human, step away from the vessel. This is your final warning. Jenna looked at the gathered ships, the Symphonia with their weapons, the human corporation with their greed, the Krell with their protocols. Everyone wanting to control or destroy what they didn't understand. She thought of Rex risking his job. Of the voice that had waited 50 millennia for someone to hear it. Of all the impossible things that became possible when someone was brave enough to try. I'm sorry, she said to Cord. But I can't let you destroy this. Then fly with me, the ship's consciousness asked. Bond with me. Let me show you what we can become together. We have been alone for so very long. Please, will you fly with me, daughter of the chaotic world? Jenna took a deep breath. She knew this would change everything. Her life, the galaxy, the future. Yes, she whispered. The crystals blazed like a newborn star. The moment Jenna accepted, the crystals exploded with light. But it wasn't just light, it was energy, information, life itself flowing between her mind and the ship's consciousness. The connection locked into place like two puzzle pieces that had been separated for ages finally reuniting. The ship shuddered. The crystal cocoon that had covered it for 50,000 years began to crack and fall away like an eggshell. Underneath was something beautiful, a hull that seemed made of liquid metal, flowing and shifting, catching starlight and bending it into colors Jenna had never seen before. Phoenix, Jenna whispered. The name came to her mind from the ship itself. Its true name, given by its original crew. Yes, Phoenix replied in her thoughts. I am Phoenix, and you are Jenna. We are partners now. Alarms screamed across every channel. The Symphonia vessel's weapons fired beams of pure energy that could vaporize a battleship. Phoenix moved before Jenna could even think the command. The ship twisted in space, phasing through the energy beams like they were nothing but light. Impossible, Cord's voice shouted. The ship was dormant. It shouldn't have power to. Phoenix was already moving. Jenna didn't control it with buttons or levers. She thought directions, and Phoenix responded, their minds working as one. It was like learning to walk awkward at first, then suddenly natural. They shot away from the dead zone, and the Symphonia fleet pursued. 5 ships, sleek and fast, their weapons tracking Phoenix's movements. More energy beams sliced through space. Phoenix dodged them all, moving in ways that shouldn't be possible. The ship folded space around itself, appearing 100 kilometers away in an instant. It phased through a piece of debris, became semi-transparent, then solid again, on the other side. Jenna laughed. She couldn't help it. This was incredible. She felt Phoenix's joy mixing with her own, the ship's consciousness celebrating being awake, being alive, being free after so long asleep. Watch, Phoenix said. I will show you what we can do together. Knowledge flooded into Jenna's mind. Not words or instructions, but pure understanding. She suddenly knew how the ship worked. How it bent reality. How it moved between dimensions. Phoenix was teaching her, uploading information directly into her brain through their neural link. The Symphonia ships fired again, this time all at once, creating a web of energy beams with no escape route. Jenna and Phoenix moved as one. The ship spun, its liquid metal hull rippling, and suddenly there were 3 Phoenixes, then 5, then 10 mirror images confusing the targeting systems. The energy beams passed through holograms while the real Phoenix slipped through a gap that should have been too small. Every station in the sector was watching now. The security feeds had gone viral across the galactic networks. On human colonies, people gathered around screens, watching one of their own do the impossible. Children pointed at the displays. Adults stood with mouths open. That's a human in there, someone said on one of the news channels. A human is piloting a predecessor ship. The Human Corporation vessel, Profit Margin, moved to intercept. Miss Kovac? The captain's voice crackled over the radio. We can offer you protection, wealth beyond measure. Just bring the ship to us. And Phoenix didn't slow down. They shot past the corporate vessel so fast it rocked in their wake. Thok's voice came through on a private channel. Kovac, what have you done? Something amazing, Jenna replied, grinning inside her flight suit. Something impossible. More ships joined the chase, bounty hunters hoping for a reward, military vessels responding to the disturbance, even pirates thinking they could claim valuable technology. The sector was in chaos. Phoenix wove through them all like a dancer, like water flowing through rocks, like wind that couldn't be caught. Every species in the galaxy was watching a human girl and a 50,000-year-old ship show them what partnership really meant. But Phoenix had a destination. Jenna felt it in her mind. Coordinates that meant nothing to her, but everything to Phoenix. They jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the pursuing ships behind in a burst of twisted space-time. When they emerged, Jenna gasped. They floated in what looked like a nebula, clouds of gas and cosmic dust glowing in shades of purple and blue. But as Phoenix moved deeper, Jenna saw the truth. The nebula was camouflage. Hidden inside were structures, stations, docks, and ships, hundreds of them. All predecessor vessels, all dormant, all waiting like Phoenix had waited. Each one covered in crystal cocoons. Each one holding a consciousness that had slept for 50,000 years. This is an archive, Jenna breathed. A fleet in hibernation. Yes, Phoenix confirmed. When the war came, we fled here. We hoped someone would find us. Someone who could understand what we had become. Someone who saw technology not as tool to control, but as partner to join with. Jenna flew Phoenix between the sleeping ships, seeing designs of all shapes and sizes. Fighters, explorers, researchers, each unique, each with its own personality waiting to wake. But Phoenix showed her something more. At the center of the archive was a station, and inside that station was a database. Information, knowledge, the complete history and technology of the predecessor civilization, preserved and waiting. Why didn't the Symphonia destroy this place? Jenna asked. They never found it, Phoenix said. We hid it well. But they have guarded the sectors nearby for millennia, destroying any predecessor ship they found, preventing anyone from waking us. They feared what we represented. Before Jenna could respond, space rippled, and Cord's ship appeared at the edge of the nebula. Then another Symphonia vessel. Then 10 more. They had tracked Phoenix's jump signature. Cord's hologram appeared beside Phoenix, visible through the canopy. The Symphonia's expression was sad but determined. You've confirmed our worst fears, Cord said. One human with one ship has already destabilized 3 sectors. Imagine if all these ships wake. Imagine them in the wrong hands. Imagine war. Or imagine peace, Jenna argued. Imagine what we could learn. What we could become. We have maintained galactic harmony for 50,000 years, Cord replied. We kept the peace by ensuring dangerous elements remained contained. The predecessor's time is over. Let them rest. The Symphonia fleet surrounded the archive, weapons charging. Enough firepower to destroy everything. The station. The ships. The entire nebula. Jenna's hands trembled. One ship, even Phoenix, couldn't fight a whole fleet. But Phoenix showed her something in the archive's database. Information that changed everything. A truth the Symphonia had hidden for 50,000 years. Cord, Jenna said quietly. I know what you did. Phoenix showed me. The predecessors didn't attack you. You attacked them. Silence. You were rivals, Jenna continued. When they evolved, merged with their technology, you feared that evolution. You struck first. The war wasn't defense. It was genocide. Cord's hologram flickered. We did what was necessary to preserve the natural order. You preserved your order? Jenna corrected. Your control. You've been guiding the galaxy for 50,000 years down paths you chose, suppressing anything unpredictable, anything chaotic. More ships were arriving now. Human Corporation, Krell Security, dozens of species drawn by the spectacle. Everyone was watching. Everyone would hear the truth. Jenna sat in Phoenix's command chamber, though calling it that felt wrong. It was more like a living space, where ship and pilot existed together. She could feel Phoenix's presence in her mind, calm and patient, waiting to see what she would do. Outside, the Symphonia fleet had them surrounded. Cord's hologram stood before her, waiting for her response. Dozens of other ships watched from a distance. Human, Krell, Vrex, Whispers, species from across the galaxy. All of them listening. You're right, Cord finally admitted. We attacked the predecessors. We feared their evolution. We believed the galaxy needed order, stability, predictability. For 50,000 years, we've maintained that peace. By controlling everyone, Jenna said. By deciding what technology species could develop, what paths they could follow. Jenna. Yes, Cord replied without shame. And it worked. No major wars. No catastrophic disasters. Harmony. At what cost? Jenna asked. Phoenix showed her more information from the archive. The predecessors didn't just build ships. They built bridges between species. Technologies that helped civilizations grow beyond their limitations. Not by changing who they were, but by enhancing their natural strengths. Tenfold. By changing their natural strengths. She activated Phoenix's external display. Holographic images appeared in space for everyone to see: blueprints, templates, designs for technology that could bond with any species, adapted to their unique abilities. The Vrex could have ships that grew and evolved with them, Jenna explained. The Whispers could have vessels that existed partially in their dimension. The Krell could build structures that truly lasted forever. Even humans, we could have technology that worked with our adaptability, our creativity. And weapons, Cord interrupted. Technology always becomes weapons. Sometimes, Jenna agreed. But hiding knowledge doesn't stop violence. It just keeps everyone weak and dependent on you. Thok's voice crackled over the radio. She's right. The Krell have followed Symphonia guidelines for millennia. We build as they recommend. We develop as they suggest. I never questioned it before. Other voices joined in. A Vrex captain. Our scientists always wondered why certain research paths were forbidden. A Whisper delegate. We thought the restrictions were for safety, but perhaps they were for control. Cord's hologram flickered, showing distress. You don't understand what you're risking. The predecessors had no limits. They changed reality itself. That power destroyed them. No, Jenna said firmly. You destroyed them because you were afraid. The Symphonia fleet's weapons glowed brighter. Cord's voice became harder. Then, we will correct that mistake. The archive will be destroyed. All of it. This ends now. Jenna looked at the sleeping ships. At the database full of knowledge. At 50,000 years of hope waiting to be awakened. She thought about Rex, risking his job for potential. About her grandmother teaching her that life finds a way to grow even in impossible places. About every human who ever looked at the word impossible and heard, try, anyway. Phoenix's consciousness touched hers. Or, Jenna asked, we can give it all away. The archive's location, the access codes, everything. Broadcast it to the entire galaxy. They'll fight over it, Jenna said. It'll cause chaos. Yes, Phoenix agreed. Beautiful, messy, unpredictable chaos, just like life itself. Jenna smiled. She opened a channel to every ship, every station, every communication network in range. My name is Jenna Kovac, she said. I'm a human who was sent to a scrapyard for fixing things I wasn't supposed to touch. Today, I'm giving you all the same opportunity. She transmitted the archive's coordinates, the access protocols. Everything. Phoenix showed her. The predecessor archive is here, she continued. Their ships, their knowledge, their technology. It's available to anyone who wants to try. Any species, any civilization, any individual. If you can understand it, it's yours. No, Cord shouted. You'll destroy the galaxy's stability. Maybe, Jenna admitted. Or maybe we'll build something better. Something we choose for ourselves, instead of something you chose for us. The effect was immediate. Ships started arriving through jump points, hundreds of them, thousands. Scientists, explorers, dreamers from every corner of the galaxy, all wanting to see the archive, to try bonding with a predecessor ship, to access the database. The Symphonia fleet tried to maintain order, but they were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Species that had followed their guidance for millennia were suddenly making their own choices. Cord's hologram appeared one last time beside Jenna. You've doomed us all. Or freed us all, Jenna replied. The Symphonia ships withdrew, their age of imposed harmony ending. They didn't have the numbers to stop what Jenna had started. Over the following weeks, chaos did erupt, but also wonder. Engineers combined predecessor principles with their own technology, creating hybrid designs. Not everyone succeeded. Some failed spectacularly. But the galaxy was learning, growing, evolving on its own terms. Humans, with their adaptability, became unexpected teachers. Their ability to see patterns in chaos, to improvise and try new approaches, helped other species understand the technology. Jenna found herself traveling from world to world, helping others attempt what she had done. The Krell offered her a full pardon and a position as chief engineer. She declined politely. Stellar Dynamics Corporation offered her enough money to buy a planet. She declined that too. Instead, she and Phoenix traveled the archive, helping sleeping ships find compatible partners. A Vrek scientist bonded with an explorer vessel. A whisper artist merged with a ship that could paint with light itself. Even a young Krell named Rex successfully partnered with a small research ship. 3 months after the archive was revealed, Jenna sat in Phoenix's chamber, watching stars drift past. They were heading toward another archive. Phoenix had shown her there were more hidden across the galaxy. More mysteries waiting. Rex's voice crackled over the comm. He'd been promoted to station manager after Thok retired. So, Jenna, what's next for the human who broke the galaxy? Jenna laughed. The galaxy isn't broken. It's just finally awake. The Symphonia are calling what you did the chaos event, Rex said. They predict war, disaster, catastrophe. They predicted we'd all fail too, Jenna replied. They were wrong about that. And if they're right this time, Jenna looked at the stars, at the infinite possibilities ahead. Phoenix hummed in agreement, and Jenna felt its joy mixing with her own. After 50,000 years alone, the ship finally had a partner. After a lifetime of being told she broke things, Jenna finally understood, sometimes breaking the old rules was how you built something new. There are hundreds more ships in the archives, Jenna said. Other mysteries. Other impossibilities waiting to become possible. Someone should help them wake up. Only you would look at a stable galaxy and call it boring. Rex laughed. Not boring, Jenna corrected, smiling. Just sleeping. Time to wake up. Phoenix agreed, and together they jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, they left ripples in space-time, the signature of something that shouldn't work, but did. Because a human had refused to accept that impossible meant anything more than not yet achieved. And the galaxy would never be the same.